Open your eyes to a world of documentaries. Witness at this time on Al Jazeera.
Welcome back. Let's recap the latest from Libya's uprising now. Forces loyal to Muammar al-Gaddafi have launched airstrikes against rebels in the town of Ras Lanuf. Dozens of people have been reported killed and 2 oil installations are in flames. Pro-Gaddafi forces say they've reclaimed the center of AlJazeera near Tripoli after fighting that killed at least 40 people, but the rebels say they've since fought back. Senior representatives from Gaddafi's government have been sent to Egypt, Portugal and Belgium. The Libyan Deputy Defense Minister is in Cairo for talks with Egypt's Military Council and the Arab League. Another envoy has met Portugal's Foreign Minister in Lisbon. The Taliban has claimed responsibility for attacking a funeral procession in northwest Pakistan. At least 37 people were killed, 100 others injured in Wednesday's attack. Kamal Haider reports.
It became a race to save the lives of those caught by the bomb's deadly blast. The victims had been taking part in a funeral procession. Now it was a procession of wounded to hospital. Some would live, but many would die. This attack was cruel even by Pakistani standards. The attacker, a young boy, said to have been wrapped in a shawl. Just as the crowd prepared to pray, he detonated his bomb. The main target, the leadership of the anti-Taliban militiamen in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province, a volunteer fighting force organized by the government in its long-running war against the Pakistani Taliban. They've been targeted before. 2 years ago, the head of the force was killed in a bomb attack. The Pakistani Taliban may be feeling some pressure here. However, almost every week, they remind the government in Islamabad that they remain a potent force in Pakistan. Kamal Haider, Al Jazeera, Islamabad.
Ireland's new Prime Minister is vowing to resolve the country's banking crisis. Enda Kenny was elected 117 votes to 27 by the Irish lower house. His Fine Gael party is governing in coalition with Labour. Well, Kenny says he aims to renegotiate the terms of the European Union bailout, making it more affordable for Ireland.
First of all, may I say...
Protesters have gathered outside the Japanese embassy in Moscow over the disputed southern Kuril Islands to which both countries lay claim. Well, they're calling for a judicial review into a demonstration last month in which a Russian flag was desecrated. The dispute means a formal peace treaty has never been signed to end World War II hostilities.
We want the Japanese government to punish those who desecrated the Russian flag. We want a judicial inquiry to be opened because they're still free. They're still not in jail. We think that the atmosphere that reigns in Japan allows anti-Russian moods to develop.
An influential US congressman is holding a hearing on Thursday on what he calls the radicalization of the American Muslim community. Well, for more on this, let's go back to Jane in Washington. Jane.
Thank you, Sammy. Well, as you can imagine, civil liberties groups and prominent Muslim Americans have decried the hearings as misrepresentative of the millions of Muslims living in the US. Even the White House says Muslims are part of the solution to terrorism, not part of the problem. But that's not stopping Congressman Peter King from conducting his hearings. Kristen Salumi reports from New York.
We know the extent of the threat that we face.
Homegrown Islamic extremism. Congressman Peter King calls it a clear and present danger. He wouldn't speak to Al Jazeera, but told Fox News.
This is a real threat, and I want the American people aware of it, and I want to see also what we're doing to combat it. And also I'm calling on Muslim leaders to be more critical in denouncing it.
But American Muslims are drawing comparisons with Joseph McCarthy's infamous anti-communist hearings of the 1950s. They're joining with leaders from other faiths, calling on King to stop what they describe as a witch hunt.
Violence is not only a Muslim phenomenon,
it is in every other communities, and to single out one community to say they are the one that bringing this issue or causing the problem rather than treat them as a solution is wrong. We want to be treated as partner, not as suspect.
Community leaders fear that the hearings will fuel anti-Muslim sentiment and demonstrations like this one, which took place recently at an Islamic charity event in California.
Muslims may be the target of Representative Peter King's hearings, but they're not waiting for an invitation to make their voices heard. They're speaking out with petitions and rallies like this one here in New York's Times Square to present their view of what it means to be Muslim.
We are the #1 trending topic on Twitter and on Facebook.
Celebrities have taken up the cause, standing alongside Muslim Americans even in the rain. Supporters point out that 48 out of 120 terrorist plots in the U.S. were discovered thanks to tips from the Muslim community.
Just because you have the right to build a mosque.
King counters with his own figures. He claims radical imams control more than 80% of American mosques. The New York congressman has his own complicated history with regards to political extremism. He defended the use of violence in civilian settings by the Irish Republican Army in the 1980s, and once compared the leader of the group's political wing to George Washington. His critics say he should understand better than anyone that radicalism isn't unique to any one culture.
This is the message that we want to say to Congressman King. Let this be hearings against terrorism, against extremism, against radicalism, and how it comes about, and not make it hearings against Islam and Muslim organizations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to thank
King shows no sign of backing down. Thursday is expected to be the first of a series of hearings. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, New York.
Well, a new poll from the Pew Research Center shows the American public is divided in its views of Islam and violence. 40% of those questioned said that Islam is more likely than other religions to encourage violence among its believers, while 42% say it doesn't. Now, that's an increase from 2002, when just 25% of Americans connected Islam with violence. And in this most recent poll, there's considerable difference in opinion between the two ends of the political spectrum. 66% of people who identify themselves as conservative Republicans believe Muslims are inclined to violence, but only 29% of Liberal Democrats agree. With me is Nihad Awad, Executive Director of the Council on American Islamic Relations. These figures aren't good, are they? The fact that Americans are increasingly viewing Muslims as linked to violence. Why has it got so bad?
It is unfair, and I believe that it is not accurate because it reflects the result of an orchestrated, well-funded misinformation campaign by conservatives, supported by, unfortunately, key leaders in our society.
But even you agree that Islam has got increasingly radicalized. So is this fear not true that
Islam as a religion cannot be radicalized? Maybe some members of that faith can be radicalized, and that can apply also to other faith communities. There's nothing unique or particular about Islam vis-a-vis radicalization. The thing is, you have some political leaders today, they would like